Last chapter, chapter 19, the cost. As Arjun rode from the riverbank towards their camp on the Kuru Field, he had only one prayer in his mind. Let his daughter-in-law, Uttara, and her unborn child be okay, because she had suffered a lot, having lost her father, brothers, and husband to this war that had nothing to do with her. If there were two persons not kin in this earth, whom Arjun loved like his own children, they would be the twins of King Virat, Prince Uttara and Princess Uttara. To protect themselves from the continuous persecution of the Kauravas, the Pandavas had near the end of their 13-year-long exile, owing to the game of dice, gone into hiding at the kingdom of Matsya in King Virat's palace. They had each approached the royal assembly separately and taken up different jobs, under false name and identity. Yudhishthir became a councilman to King Virat, due to his wisdom and also the king's companion for game of dice. Bhim had become a cook in the palace, due to his fondness of eating and preparing food. Nakul and Sahadev had taken up jobs in the animal husbandry, while Draupadi became a handmaiden to the queen of Matsya. Arjun had sacrificed his potency as a penance during his austerities in the exile, and hence he took up the job of a eunuch, by the name of Brihanala, and became the dance teacher to Uttara and her companions. He had grown to care for that girl slowly, and also her twin brother Uttara, who was still undergoing his weapons training. In times of war, independence of food supply becomes an extremely important issue, and sometimes, results of wars are influenced by which side had the largest kine to feed its army. Matsya's kine and animal husbandry could only be rivaled by that of the Yadavs, which is why the Kauravas wanted control over it, foreseeing the upcoming war with the Pandavas. On the other hand, Sushama, the king of Trigarta, whom Arjun killed on the last day of battle, had been an archenemy of King Virat for a long time. So Duryodhan made a pact with Sushama and decided to attack Matsya together, with Sushama posing a decoy attack drawing away the main army, leaving the city undefended for Kaurav army to raid and steal the kine. As this plan was put into action, all the able-bodied warriors like the king, and most of the Pandavas went to the battle with Sushama's Trigarta army, while only Arjun, as the eunuch, and the youngest Prince Uttara were left behind with the women of the city and a skeletal army. When the Kauravas had attacked, Arjun had then taken up the task of charioteering Uttara to the battlefield, leading the small army left. Seeing the vast Kaurav army, Uttara was shaken, but Arjun then, revealing his true identity, climbed the chariot to battle, while Uttara handled the reins. If this 18-day battle on the Kuru Field was a movie, then what happened on that day at Matsya was its trailer. Not expecting to face the great archer Arjun, the Kauravas had been shocked, and taking advantage of that, Arjun's arrows baffled them. Then Arjun used special drug-induced arrows to put the whole army to sleep, thus rescuing Matsya from the calamity. Before going off to war, confident that the enemy would be defeated, Uttara had asked to bring back colorful robes from the Kaurav princes. So Arjun tore off the robes from those sleeping warriors, a poetic justice to what happened in the assembly of the game of dice. After the defeat of the army on both fronts, the identity of the Pandavas were revealed, and Virat was so happy to have them within their midst, especially Arjun, that he wanted him to marry Uttara. Arjun politely refused, saying that he had been living as a eunuch with Uttara in the inner chambers of the palace, and if he now married her, people might speak ill about his intentions with her to begin with. So instead, he arranged for his son Abhimanyu to marry Uttara, which was a better match. Now almost all of those characters are no longer in this world. Uttara was killed on the very first day of the battle by King Shalya. Abhimanyu was killed on the 13th day and Virat on the 15th day. How much more would that orphaned widow have to endure? New tents were affixed for the women of the Pandav family, separate from the destroyed camp, in which Draupadi still sat unmoving and starving herself. With her small baby bump, Uttara had been helping her mother-in-law Subhadra to set up things within their temporary housing. Kunti was with Draupadi, uselessly trying to console her and persuade her to come away from there and eat. With a heavy heart and getting a chance, Uttara walked away from the crowd of servants and women towards a secluded part of the area. She stared at the blood mud near her feet and wondered if any of that blood belonged to her husband. Princess Uttara, a voice spoke from her side, and she turned to find a short man dressed like a servant, holding a small box in his hand. Uttara nodded, confirming her identity, whereafter the man spoke. I knew that I would find you here when the Pandavas brought their women to the battle camp. I was waiting for the right moment to approach you, princess. Who are you? Uttara asked, at which the man replied, a humble servant of Abhimanyu in this camp. After he had been martyred, I sorrowfully left, grieving for my master. But when I heard that the women have come here, I came to deliver this. The man held up the box to Uttara and added, Master Abhimanyu gave this to me and told me to hand it over to you if he did not return from the war. Consider this his final gift. Uttara took the box with shaky hands, while the man added further, he told me that the contents were private and for your eyes only. Uttara's eyes hazed as she looked through her tears at the box, which as far as she was concerned, the nearest she could get to touching Abhimanyu again. Uttara had been able to spend very little time with her husband, since the Great War followed quickly after their marriage. But the few nights of passion that they had shared were now the lifetime memories of her. Both of them knew that their marriage was a political one, bringing about a strong alliance between the Pandavas and the Matsyas. But Abhimanyu had never treated her that way. The boy had inherited all the charms of his father and his maternal uncle, and it was all reserved for her. Uttara looked up from the box, wiping her eyes, and found that the servant had disappeared. She wondered if that man had really been there, or was it her imagination, but the box, still held in her hand, said otherwise. Was it possible that this was some divine messenger who delivered this from the heavens as a consolation from the gods? She went to open the box, but stopped as a voice spoke from behind. What is that? She turned around to see Subhadra, her mother-in-law, and she answered, a servant of your son came here just now to deliver this. He said that your son left it for me. Abhimanyu. Subhadra's eyes welled up in tears as she touched the box and ran her finger along it. What is there inside? Open it. Uttara's fingers went to edge of the lid, but again stopped as she said hesitantly, the servant told that your son said it was for my eyes only. I don't know. Okay, Subhadra said, sounding disappointed, and she stepped back. You may go to the tent and open it there in private, but if there is anything in it which you think I can know, then let us find out together. Uttara said, you are his mother and you have the right to this now that he's gone. Tears rolled down both their eyes as Uttara held up the box to chest level and searched for the latch to open the lid. No sooner had she found it than something strong and heavy with huge momentum hit together the box and Uttara's hand from the side. The box dropped to the ground a couple of meters away, and a gash appeared at the back of Uttara's hand, which oozed blood. Even though the wound was not deep, Uttara screamed from shock and Subhadra sprang back, holding onto her daughter-in-law. The object that hit her was nothing but the discus of Krishna, which had clattered to the ground close to their feet. Get away from there, get away from the smoke, Krishna's distant voice shouted, as he rode on one of his milky white steeds and closed in on them from hundreds of meters towards the horizon. Following him were more riders, the Pandavas, who had gone to hunt Ashwatthama. Subhadra looked down at the box, which had fallen from Uttara's grip, and found that green smoke was issuing out of its now broken lid and drifting towards them fast. Grabbing the nervous Uttara, holding her bleeding hand, she dragged her away from the smoke. As Krishna and the Pandavas neared, Arjun used his arrows, one after the other, to hit the box and send it sliding over the muddy ground as far away as possible. What's going on? Subhadra said, tearing a piece of cloth from her robes and tying it around Uttara's hand, who was now weeping. Who gave that box? Krishna said, panting and between his breaths, after the horses stopped encircling the two women. A servant of your nephew came and delivered it to me, Uttara said, controlling her emotions, said it was from my husband. Apparently it was not, Krishna said, holding onto his knees and sighing a relief while breathing hard. If you had inhaled that smoke, either you would have died or your child would have. That man must have been an accomplice of Ashwatthama, sent to end the Pandav lineage. Where is he now? Bhim growled and glanced around, but there was no man visible on the Kuru Field for miles. It doesn't matter. Yudhishthira spoke now and added, looking at Subhadra, "Get Uttara inside and do not let her eat or drink anything without a taster. I will get people to hunt down the man." Thanking Krishna heartily, as the two women went away from there and the Pandav brothers scanned the landscape with their eyes, Arjun asked Krishna, "Madhav, how did you know that the box Uttara was holding was dangerous?" "I didn't," Krishna replied with a smile. "I was just being paranoid about everything around her, and it saved her and her child, didn't it?" Draupadi sat with closed, wet eyes on the ground by the bodies of her sons. The old Kunti who stood behind her silently shed tears. This battle for power, honor, and revenge had taken all her grandsons, and unbeknownst to everyone, one of her sons too. She did not know when was the right time to let the Pandavs know that Karna was their half-brother, and how would her sons react to that? Will they too, like Karna, reject her or accuse her? After everything, how could she bear it? Bhim's presence made her aware of her surroundings again, and she wiped her tears, greeting her son with silent dry smile, after which she left her son with his wife. Bhim sat down from across Draupadi and then placed the gem at her feet. Draupadi opened her eyes and looked down at the gem, which she then picked up. Her eyes welled up. Her Bhim had done it again for her, honoring her feelings only. Even though Draupadi loved Arjun the most, Bhim was the caring husband she could rely on at all times. She has exploited this man's feelings towards her for long, but how can she ever repay him? Her other husbands and Krishna now came there and sat down circling her, whereafter Bhim spoke. "The killer of our son is defeated and exiled, and he has yielded his beloved gem. All those who dishonored you have been killed, including Duryodhan and Karna. Rise now, Draupadi, and eat something. A warrior woman must be ready for such calamities and stay strong." Draupadi, the common wife of the Pandavs and soon to be queen of Kuru kingdom, rose from her place and wiped her eyes. As the sun was setting for that day, Yudhishthira stood at the edge of the Kuru Field, with his hands behind his back and his robes fluttering in the wind. Vultures, crows, and other scavenger birds flew in the sky and landed on the decomposing bodies, guts and excreta that filled the huge expanse rolling up to the horizon before him. Wolves, foxes, and dogs roamed the field, feasting on the entrails and blood, while clouds of flies swarmed over the field, settling like a blanket over everything. Yudhishthira looked ahead blankly as his eyes expressed grief like never before. "King Yudhishthira," Krishna said, joining him, "aren't you even a little happy, having regained your lost honor and kingdom, that too by the strength of your arms and not by dice?" "But at what cost?" Yudhishthira blurted out. "My family is destroyed. My son and nephews all gone. Look ahead, Madhav, all these greatest warriors of Bharat and soldiers lying out there in pieces as food for animal and turning to compost. What's left in the kingdom I will rule, except wails of widows and sonless mothers." Yudhishthira sighed and resumed, "Duryodhan was right. Every enemy we killed here, we did so unfairly. We sacrificed the very righteousness for which we fought the war. Maybe Duryodhan and Karna deserved it, but the others." Krishna smiled at this, thinking how Yudhishthira would react to hearing that Karna too was in a way his family. But that was not Krishna's truth to tell. He only calmly replied, "You have tried to avoid all this in every way. Have you not? Remember how many peace emissaries you sent to Duryodhan, including me, all rejected. All the deaths in this field, fair or unfair, is not on you." He turned at Yudhishthira and, placing his arm on the king's shoulder, added, "With these warriors, all the darkness of this society too met here in this field and annihilated each other. The world now has a chance to a fresh start led by the righteous King Yudhishthira. Without blaming yourself, take up that responsibility because the world needs you." Letting his words sink in, Krishna turned at the decaying field and thought about it himself. No matter what he says, it was not true that Krishna did not want this massive slaughter to occur. Since his childhood, Krishna had been fighting against tyranny and autocracy. First, it had been against the tyrant Yadav king of Mathura, Kans. Then came Kans' father-in-law, the warmonger Jarasandh. After Jarasandh was dealt with, it was the Kauravas. When one autocrat was overthrown, another took his place. Bharat had been filled with kings and aristocrats, so prideful and lustful with power that they could do anything and get away with. A single great war, a giant massacre to end them all no matter which side they were on, was much needed. Krishna had done everything in his power to get the ball rolling to bring about this war and this purge. Now, when the grandsons and great-grandsons of Pandavs sits on the throne of Hastinapur, they will not be influenced by any autocrat around them. The world will be a better place without the lustful kings, the demonic Rakshas clans and the cannibal tribes, all of which had been demolished from the face of the earth now. And the story of this war will act as a deterrent to the upcoming generations, preventing them straying from the path of true righteousness. They will know that not just participating in, but even staying silent in face of oppression on the weak, or dishonor of an innocent woman, is an invitation to their own destruction. They will know that even wrongfully deprived, dishonored and crushed in every way possible, a person can rise high again if they are determined. They will also know that whenever there is a decline in righteousness and an increase in unrighteousness, someone will rise from the mass to relieve the good and destroy the evil at all cost. The end.
18 days of fire and fate. Dharma scales filled too late. Arrows blunt the Kuru sky. Brother turns and brothers die. Blades clash where gods once walked. Vagabond truth in blood is taught.